You have no idea how relieved I was when this version came out, because playing 2.3 felt miserable to me. Parts of it was because I didn't really enjoy the first half of the patch, but most of the misery came from the latter half of 2.3. I wanted to make a video about it, but it sucked the very life out of me to a point where I gave up and I just didn't bother. So here's what I'll do. Let's speedrun what I thought about the second half of 2.3 before we get into 2.4. First off, the Solon story. It's half a character quest and half an interlude quest. Interesting concept. It actually made me think about character quests in a different light, where maybe character quests don't have to be so lonely. Other playable characters associated with Sukona like Carlotta can exist, and with good writing, still allow Sukona to remain in the spotlight. This proves that other playable characters existing in other characters' quests don't take the focus away from the actual main character. It's something I hope to see in future character quests. As for the story itself, remember the church bad plot? Well, it's back, and this time they're so evil that the story was held hostage by a bunch of church children. I knew they were up to no good. But real talk, the big issue is that there's a lot of reading and text-based visual novel stuff going on here. This is not what I expected from a game like Wuthering Waves, and honestly, it's a little disruptive to the experience. But at least we got some visually stimulating scenes alongside their consistently immaculate visual storytelling to make up for that fact. Ah, the sun! There's a lot of sunlight, it's so bright! But yeah, aside from being blinded by the sun, these scenes were immaculate as always. Just don't play this quest in a dark room. Going back to the visual novel stuff, let's just blame the visual novel parts on the church. Man, they're really evil people. Speaking of visual novels, we need to talk about the Solaris Film Festival. I definitely do not like it, it's naturally slow, it's entirely in a visual novel format, and quite frankly, it's a little boring. For something that exists in the Som Noir that usually taps into the power fantasy of building and creating random OP versions of your teams, the buffs themselves were kind of underwhelming. Overall, I did not have fun. In fact, I spent hours in this place trying to find the fun, only to realize that I was only burning myself out, and I had to stop myself before I started hating this game. Finally, the last thing worth mentioning is that they implemented this thing where after every 10 levels on the battle pass, a screen would pop up telling you to unlock the paid track. Please take that out. It's annoying, unnecessary, and a bit intrusive. But hey, that's all in the past, so let's not dwell on it because 2.4 is here to save me from my woes. So what's going on with Wuthering Waves version 2.4? The 2.4 story was neither great nor was it terrible. It's somewhere in the middle. A lot of it can be owed to the fact that this was mostly set up by introducing the new main players of this arc and teasing where it's going to go, but honestly, I had mixed feelings about this story. It did a great job at introducing the region and its culture in a quick and digestible manner. The storytelling was great, even the cool cinematic transitions was really cool, and the visuals were top notch. It looks great on the surface, but something about this whole thing made me feel a little uneasy. The amazing visuals, the cool transitions, and the flashy cutscenes. Was it all smoke and mirrors? The truth is, I thought that the story was strange and the experience actually felt like a step down compared to what we experienced in 2.2. Or maybe I'm just jaded. You know what? Let's start at the beginning. After becoming a fugitive thanks to the events of the Sukona quest, where are we at now? Well, apparently Cardathia went missing, so we got a mystery on our hands. Our only lead? The new region of Septimont, a region that is still part of Rinascita but has a completely different culture compared to Raguna. So here's the thing, Kuro really wastes no time in trying to get us into Septimont. We see Cardathia is missing, we talk to Cantarella for some information, and then we head off into the clouds. Next thing you know, after we land, Abby is locked away, we learn a bit about Septimont, and then we conveniently find Lupa, who just so happens to have a connection to Cardathia out of the thousands of people we could possibly find in Septimont. And then we get carried along in a relatively quick adventure to find out what is actually going on. The pacing is shockingly fast, especially when it feels like everything conveniently landed on our lap, which can feel slightly inorganic. But I can suspend my disbelief as I can chalk that up to Christopher writing the plot like this because I'm sure that finding the truth can get boring and dragged out compared to having the truth come to you. Anyway, we team up with Lupa because of some drama with her team and the Silva family, then we sign up for the gladiator competition, then we do a little bit of fighting in the competition, then we take a tour of the Septimont city, and then of all things, Forlova decides to spoil the story for us. Afterwards, we continue on to the tournament, out Julia and the Silva family while we're at it, be reminded that there are still no 4 stars since 1.4, then we get more Mia backstory, become the champs, travel to a weapon graveyard, acts as a hub station, throw Lupa into the next story, Lupa finds a secret Faxidus lab, and then we get to the final fight. Looking back, it sounds like a lot was going on, but at the same time, it didn't feel like a lot happened. The worst part was that I wasn't really invested in what was going on. The only thing that kept me going was the intrigue. Now, I'm not sure if my lack of investment came from the pacing being so fast that it didn't give me any time to really care about what was going on, or maybe because Forlova decided to spoil a bit of the plot, making this an open and shut case. Either way, what this story felt like was playing the waiting game until the important stuff pops up so we can swoop in and resolve it. And let's talk about the less important stuff like the whole Silva conspiracy. To be honest, I wasn't exactly sure if we were supposed to care about this plot point. The Silvas didn't really have much of a presence to begin with, and it felt like they were treated as an afterthought. It seems like the only reason why this side plot existed was so we could partner up with Lupa. I mean, I guess Julia was involved with the Fraxidus plans and fishing out Mia's body, but even that wasn't really that big of a deal. Maybe the most that came out of this whole thing was that it reinforced Lupa's beliefs and ideals, but it's not like she ever doubted her ideals. Also, this has been eating away at me, but if the spear that was given to Lupa by the Silvas was an item that was suspected in foul play, why does Lupa insist on keeping the spear? Especially when it came from the people who used and backstabbed her. On top of the fact that this spear was dangerous enough to nearly kill a friend. Or did she get a new identical one? Guys, I think Cristoforo is slipping a bit here. By the way, I'm not exactly a fan of the trope where there's a villain that the audience knows but the main character doesn't. But on the flip side, they could make it interesting by having Cristoforo continue to intentionally hang around with us pretending to be a friend and try to gaslight us. But unfortunately, it appears we're going straight into the mask off moment for him. Now moving on, we have to talk about the Cardathia parts. So basically, the story builds the mystery by having us watch two perspectives, our side and Cardathia's side. Now here's the thing about these parts. I think it'd be cool if we had more playable sections on Cardathia's side. And I know the Arsenosa fight and the whole rail thing was playable, but I wanted to see more than just those two because what we mostly got was a bunch of dialogue scenes. I think having more playable sections on the other side would have us be more attached to what's going on with Lupa and Cardathia and still add more to the mystery without giving too much away. Like, it'd be cool if we could experience more of Cardathia's journey with Lupa and see how it compares to our journey with Lupa, rather than being told how their journey went. Sound familiar? What it comes down to is a point I've made in past videos. Kuro has a strange habit of getting to describe the cool stuff and not letting us do it. Remember how Camellia got to experience her side of the simulation? Or how about Carlotta when she had to rescue her uncle? In fact, getting to experience how Carlotta rescues her uncle in the main story would make her character quest even more interesting since we would get to see how sus her uncle would be before we start the character quest. At least, it's better than the waste of time we experienced with the Troop of Fools section. The point is, if the cool stuff is on the other side, let me experience it. And it's not like they haven't done this before. Take a look at Chang Li's character quest. I personally think it's one of the more underrated quests as it does two things. First, it excels in visual storytelling to let us peer into the mind of a character who is hard to read, and second, the dual perspectives. You see, what the quest did was split Chang Li and Rover apart and have them both experience Chang Li's backstory in different ways, giving us insight into how both characters view her story. This is proof that you can bring more to the table when you get to experience both sides in an interactive manner. So yeah, I definitely wanted to see more than just the Arsenosa fight and the rail section. Speaking of the rail section, or running section, whatever you want to call it, we need to talk about it. It's not great. It's all QTEs that don't seem to have a fail state anyway, zero tension, and honestly plays itself for 3 whole minutes. The first time we saw it way back in 1.3, it was really cool, but seeing it return in 2.0 and now in 2.4, nothing really changed. In fact, I think it got worse in terms of spectacle, which was the only good thing about these kinds of sections. It's one of those deceptive moments where it's saying you're playing a game when you're really not. And the thing is, I think this section can absolutely be more interactive than what it currently is. Basing it off of what we already have in the game, it could have the level of control we had when sliding down Mount Firmament, or being able to switch between rails without the need of QTEs like the underground rail section, or just having full control over how we wall run in general. I've always admired Kuro for taking risks in creating unique experiences, but this one isn't one of them. Speaking of unique experiences, let's talk about the gameplay experience in general for the story. What is that like? Well, it's okay, but I don't think it's their best work. I still have some issues there as well. For instance, in the story when we play as Rover, we play as Arrow Rover. Personally, of the 3 Rovers, I feel that Arrow is the clunkiest of them all. The only reason why I would use Arrow Rover is because her outro allows me to have 6 stacks of erosion instead of 3. But playing Arrow Rover as a lone character feels awkward. And I'm not saying let's have us play as Lupa because we're fighting alongside her. No, I actually like the idea that we don't get to play as Lupa because it feels less lonely and we are really fighting together. My issue is that I'm just not a fan of Aero Rover's movesets, mostly the in-air combat stuff. You see, when you're in the air, it feels like you're suspended in the air rather than floating or flying. Honestly, I wish it felt a little more fluid or something more along the lines of how Lucia Pyro flies around in combat, but what I really wished for was that they allowed us to have all three elements active, like at the end of 2.2. You see, if we're not able to switch to Lupa, I think the compromise would be to allow us to switch between all three rovers. But let's put it this way, we already got to experience playing with the three rovers almost as if we unlocked the ability to do so. And here, it feels like they took our power away, so that way they could bring it back later in the future when a big moment happens again and then pretend like it's the greatest thing ever, when what is actually happening is that we're experiencing the same exact thing. Let's hope that's not what's going to happen, but that's just how I feel about this. Speaking of combat, let me show you what peak Kuro boss design looks like in Wuthering Waves. That's the boss? No way, they just slapped Mia on top of the Morning Ayats and then called it a day, didn't they? Oh my god. Yeah, not gonna lie, the story boss reveal was way funnier than it had to be. I was a little caught off guard. Look, I've made this kind of criticism in the past, and I'll say it again. I don't want to fight a recycled version of a boss we fought once before with a new coat of paint, especially for what I think would be the final crescendo of the story. Besides, I think some of Kuro's best boss fights aren't even the monster-like fights, but actually the humanoid fights. Like, it'd be cool if we fought Mia, who was hyped up to be an amazing gladiator, instead of whatever this is. But hey, at least I got a good laugh out of it, so thanks Kuro. Finally, one last thing I do want to talk about is a certain bug that I hope Kuro will fix, or maybe they have already fixed it when this video gets released, but I still need to mention it. So in the section where we had to drain the water, apparently I couldn't interact with the sentry bot to progress. It confused me for a while because I thought I had to do something else, but I did manage to fix it by reloading the map multiple times so the quest will update its quest prompt and allow me to actually interact with the bot. So I do hope that no one else encounters that issue, and hopefully it'll be fixed by the time this video releases. Now, I don't want to end this section on a bad note. After all, as much as I think this wasn't their best work, I do think they made an effort to improve on some areas. For instance, take a look at this.
Sorry. Lend me your shoulder for a moment. I'm a bit tired. Go ahead.
Hang on, this isn't what it looks like. We're just friends. Look, I really like this approach. Finally, instead of someone trying to suck us off, we get someone who is genuinely written to be a friend. And that's all you really need. You don't need to shoehorn some suggestive love plot to make a character likable. Just make a character likable. And for those who still want to goon, I mean, there's still stuff to goon about. It doesn't have to be in your face or anything, but hey, let me just say this. I'm not going to advocate for the removal of the super gooner stuff. It's just that we've had this kind of trope done over and over again multiple times in a row. I would just say, pull it back a little. Let it come back when it feels fresh again. Am I going to like it when the gooner stuff returns? Maybe not, but I think it's a good compromise. Now let's move on to the other thing that I like, which are the after stories. This is a nice touch. Instead of ending the story with a full stop, you can come back and see how the main characters of that story are doing afterwards. It expands a bit more on their characters, and it also has us see how they were affected by the journey they were just on. This is such a good addition that it makes the story experience feel full and complete. Look, no one is going to deny that 2.4 is a good effort on Kuro's part, and 2.4 does have things that deserve praise. But I still think that they can do more for their story and their narrative. And regardless of what I think about this story, I'm still excited to see what they'll do next. Septimont is a very interesting region, and it's a very interesting take on how Kuro wants to expand on their world. Septimont is a city-state that is part of Rinascita, but holds a very different culture and feel compared to Ragusa. This is really cool because one continent shouldn't consist of only one city. To have one area consist of multiple regions is definitely a step in the right direction. That said, there are some things I need to talk about regarding Septimont specifically. Starting with the city itself, finally, we get an area that deserves to be called a city. I'm tired of these little town areas that are masquerading as small cities. I remember during the Black Shores arc, we caught a glimpse of the past port of Gweiju, and it looked like a grand metropolis. And I really wanted to see future cities look like that. I wanted them to feel so overwhelmingly large that it makes you feel tiny. I don't want to see Jinzhou-sized cities or a small civilization like the Black Shores, or even Ragusa, which felt more like a port town. But come 2.4, and Kuro delivered with Septimont, because this is what I call a city. There's so many interesting areas populating the city of Septimont that I wanted to explore every nook and cranny. And I did, and that's where I noticed a perplexing problem that I should have foreseen from a city so big. When you make an area so big, as detailed as the area might be, there's a chance that you might not get much out of the experience other than the fact that it exists without much substance. You see, I enjoyed touring around the entire city of Septimont, but at the same time, a part of me felt a little uneasy as there were some unique and well-designed areas that felt hollow, almost as if I happened upon a film set where everyone around me is just a cardboard cutout. And there are multiple points around Septimont that are like that, which is a byproduct of having a city this massive. But here's the thing, what more could they put in? In reality, Wuthering Waves doesn't really have that many interactable facilities. We got a cooking station and a crafter of sorts, but beyond those two, what more could they put in? How about stores? Well, they exist, but they're dependent on and also limited to the materials that exist in the region. How about interactables? Well, we got a bathhouse and the hotel thing. The bathhouse is cool, but the hotel thing is just a space that you can walk into. Man, we're just so close to getting a personal dorm though. Either way, a part of me feels like their hands are tied and it's not so simple as to add another bathhouse into an empty area. Does that mean that it's a bad idea to have an area as big as the city of Septimont? No, I still want more large cities. Does that mean that I should accept the fact that there will be empty sections? Also no. I understand that it comes with a challenge, but I believe Kuro has the creative capacity to really add more to their work. So what about the region outside the city? Design-wise, I love the darker tone it is taking on, trying to reach a balance between a land that has been torn by the dark tide and a land that is flourishing through the people who are fighting back against it. And on top of that, there's some Roman influence here and there. It's really good, no notes. But here's the thing, after exploring this region, I felt like I was second guessing myself, wondering if I actually did much at all. There's the Dragon Expedition quest, the Furlova Expedition quest, and a couple of mini quests like the classic Taking the Picture of the Region quest or the Petrified Monster in the Lake quest. Beyond that, it's just finding chests and some Easter eggs here and there, which is cool by the way. And I guess it's also worth noting that the lands are very populated with a lot of gladiators and their echoes. It seems like I did a bunch, but at the same time, it feels like it wasn't anything noteworthy. And that's when it hit me. Septimont has content, but the content itself wasn't unique enough to set itself apart from other regions we've been to. For the most part, it's just business as usual. There aren't that many Septimont specific puzzles that left an impact and really banked on the identity of the region. It's just mostly busy work. And that's the thing. I want to see more of what makes Septimont what it is. I want to see more of those mini quests as it adds more life to the region with its people. I want to see more of that echo puzzle that we occasionally use in more creative scenarios, or other puzzles with echoes unique to this region. I just want this experience to feel different from my experience in Ragusa. So overall, exploring this region wasn't exactly the most fulfilling to me. But here's the thing, there was something else that really brought down my experience. In fact, this case is unique in that it comes from trying to 100% the region in the first couple of days since the launch of this patch. I'd like to think that I'm used to time gating, but I don't like it. It's a frustrating concept that usually leads me to ask, what value does time gating bring to certain pieces of content? Depending on the content, there's usually a reason, some that I can accept and others which I cannot. For this one, I can only assume it's to fight back against the dry spells that the second half of a patch would bring. In a way, it makes sense, and I can sort of accept that, because it's common in other gacha games. But at the same time, personally, I would prefer that everything gets released on the day of release, so I can get all of that done and then wait for the next patch. So why did this hit different? For one, the wait wasn't worth it. You see, I was under the impression that 2.4's quest was going to be about the length of 2.0's main quest. I thought they would cut the quest in half to better manage the pacing and not burn anyone out. But 2.4's quest ended up being much shorter and the latter half of the patch only brought us a very fast epilogue to the quest that we were already on. Looking back, I would rather have it done all in one go if the ending was literally right around the corner. And this led me to ask, what was the point in saving this section for the next 2 weeks? This leads into the exploration portion of this whole thing. Normally, I'm able to 100% a region off the rip from release, then chill and then wait it out. But for this one, I was stuck at 99% because I couldn't have any access to the teleport beacons which were located in areas locked behind the ending of 2.4's story. This became frustrating because there was no way for me to know that I should wait 2 weeks to get the rest of the beacons and chests. Like, the whole time, I was wondering if I was missing something when it came to draining the water. I literally thought my game was bugged or there was a hidden quest that I didn't do. I understand that this is a temporary annoyance as people who aren't playing on the day of won't have to worry about this, but it's still annoying nevertheless, and it's been eating away at me that I had to talk about it. As irritating as it is to be locked at 99% exploration or halted right before the conclusion, it's a matter of preference. Again, I would rather have it all be done in one go. This is not exactly a deal breaker to me, but I hope it's not something they'll pull next time. And if they do it again, well, it is what it is. There are 3 events that's worth talking about in this patch: Banner Never Falls, the card game, and Virtual Crisis. But I'll only be talking about the Banner Never Falls event and the card game, as Virtual Crisis is basically Wuthering Waves' version of Babel Tower, and I literally made a video on it like a few weeks ago. The TLDR of it is, I like it. So let's start with the Banner Never Falls event. This is a permanent challenge that unlocks after you complete 2.4's main campaign. This takes place around the middle and outer wall districts of Septimont. What you want to do is go around these zones, fight a bunch of enemies, capture the zone, level up your glory, go to other zones, rinse and repeat until you dominate the entire area. Pretty straightforward. The event was a good idea, it's something to do, and it does promote a bit of exploration within these zones. But the thing is, after clearing a few zones, this started to become a little repetitive. What's funny was that I accidentally fought the final boss who did a bit more damage than I could chew, but I ended up killing it. And then I was prompted to talk to a bot which completely ended the whole event and automatically captured the zones that I didn't capture, cutting this event short for me. At least the rewards of those zones were still available to me. Oh yeah, after I completed this whole thing, I learned that apparently there was a modifier of some sort that would benefit Lupa or something. Honestly, it didn't matter because I nuked the whole thing with Cardathea. It's just how things played out for me. Now, aside from the Banner Never Falls event, we got another permanent event, the card game. Now, personally, I'm not into card games anymore. I quit Yu-Gi-Oh! When Link summoning started to become a thing. I started seeing the game devolve into some sort of like OTK, FTK metagame due to many powerful engines that are now in the game. But hey, it's just a side game in Wuthering Waves. Maybe it won't go crazy, right? Well, as it turns out, the moment I unlocked the Spectral deck, I started seeing the writing on the walls. You can make an OTK deck in there. Sure, the game has action limits, but that doesn't matter since there's ways to circumvent that. On top of the fact that there's some cards that give draw power, and let me tell you, I was not surprised to find that people were already making OTK decks. Luckily, it's not multiplayer. Look, if you're into this, that's great. This game has a lot of depth, but for me, I simply went in, got the rewards I needed, and then dipped as fast as possible. Oh look, Calcaro's here! Anyway, overall, I was satisfied with the event game modes for this update. They didn't overstay their welcome, and they achieved what they set out to do. And for events like these, that's all it ever needed to be. So this one is a little inconsequential for those free-to-play players, but I want to rant about this one and I had no idea where I wanted to put this section. Anyway, I like skins. I especially like the ones that Kuro makes. Hell, I usually go out of my way to buy the ones that I like for characters in PGR. So when I heard that for the anniversary Kuro would give everyone a 300 Lunite discount on skins, I was elated. But here's the thing. The discount only lasts until the end of this patch, meaning that it's only valid for the Carlotta and Chain Li skin. Personally, I think these skins are alright, but I want to wait and see if there's other skins I would want to get later in the future. Ideally, I would hold on to the discount ticket and use it when there's a skin that comes out that I would move heaven and earth to get. Unfortunately, I cannot do that. And that's the thing, I don't like how this voucher is only valid for these two skins, and I guess Jinsi and Sanhua too. Now, you could say that it's unreasonable to be able to have us keep this ticket forever. Fine, let's compromise. This is what I think would be more reasonable. have the ticket be valid until the next Wuba anniversary, so that way if this one isn't used up, then use it or lose it. Simple as that. I don't think that having this kind of limited time voucher is a good idea when we don't really have that many skin options. For paid content, this is pretty FOMO heavy. But yeah, that's the last thing I want to touch on. Roughly 6 months ago, Solon did an interview where he talked about Wuthering Waves and its future. He mentioned that around every 6 months, Kuro would aim to deliver significant new content. This was a rather vague statement, and it was assumed that he meant that it'd be similar in scale compared to 2.0. Of course, the assumption seems to be wrong, and the fact is 2.4 is not as big as 2.0. If we're talking about comparing the amount of content we got, I would say it's barely a little more than what we got in 2.2. But the amount of content aside, did 2.4 feel significant? I mean, we got a new region in Rinascita that set itself apart from Raguna, as well as a brand new story arc. So it sounds like it, though I'm not gonna lie, I find it a little troubling to wrap my head around this because oddly enough, I had a feeling where I've been through this before. You see, it reminded me of when the Black Shores was announced. Different vibe, new area, loosely tied to the main region, but is very much its own thing, and it has its own story arc. Looking back, I'm still not sure if Kuro truly delivered on what Solon was saying about having a significant update every 6 months, but I think we should ask the real question. Did I enjoy it? Yeah, I enjoyed the patch. There were some bumps on the road, some choices that I questioned, and some things I was disappointed by, but overall, everything that I had experienced was relatively fun. And maybe that's what 2.4 is. A mixed bag where it had the excitement of a new region, but fell slightly short from the expectations I would have when comparing it to something like 2.0. In the same article about the 6 months promise, Solon mentioned that Kuro Games established their core vision to be challenge is greatness. It's the idea to pursue seemingly impossible challenges and realize greatness through them. And as this is their core vision, I very much hold them to it. As of right now, I think they're still aligned with that core vision, seeing that they are trying something new and something more ambitious. It just came with some issues that are inherent with those ambitions. Anyway, that's all I have to say for 2.4. If you liked the video, do leave a like and maybe subscribe. Also, if you subscribe, it will increase your luck in winning your 50/50 on the upcoming Forlova banner. That said, thanks for watching, and now if you excuse me, I got a rush hour to train. I'll see you in the next one. Bye!